So I bought a different light that kind of sits on my desk. Like brilliant. Got an arm on the microphone now. Like I'm not budget podcaster anymore. I'm doing good.
That's hardcore. It's nice. You finally got the setup right.
The light's nice because I don't feel like my head's as shiny.
I think it's shiny.
Should
Blend
I
it with red to you.
Here, how about that?
Yeah, that's way better.
Okay.
And you just need some spray tan and Rogaine.
I don't want Rogaine. I like being bald.
Hello, my friends.
Thank you for joining us for the PEBCAK Podcast, a weekly information security show featuring some all-around good people. It is week 6 of 2023. I'm CSE, and my shoulder is still not back to normal, which has prevented me from going to the gym. With me, I have my co-host CTE, who never skips a gym day.
I don't. I went today, and I had a good old time, but my chest literally on the last call was tweaking out, like it was cramping up. Thought I was having a heart attack, but also my back hurts from carrying the team, the podcast team. You guys really need to settle it again. You suck. I am towing the line here.
What
Just kidding.
are you talking about there, Brian?
Alright, well, if you want to moderate one of these days, be my guest. Just for the record, I have moderated 98 out of 98 episodes.
Yeah, but like, whatever. That's like being the prettiest Denny's waitress. Thanks, but no thanks.
Alright, well, you don't have a right to complain. And we have Lebowski on the line, sipping on a white Ukrainian.
What?
Is that me?
And you know what? Yeah. We're not supposed to call it white Russian anymore. We have to call it a white Ukrainian.
Oh.
Okay.
I see. Well, hey everybody. What the heck was that about? I don't know, but whatever. Just like Chris and his Amazon shirt here. I'll tell you what though, guys. Anyone, or guys and gals for that way. Anyone who's sitting on this right now has got to gotta look at to see what Chris is wearing. As you know, Chris has been great at wearing and trolling some companies out there. And as of right now, he's wearing a big, bright blue Amazon polo tee. So I don't know what he's delivering, but he's delivering something.
He's delivering bad news and unfunny jokes.
Delivering smiles.
That's it.
The Amazon promise, delivering smiles.
Does this mean that you actually did Amazon work part-time instead of buying that shirt? You actually applied for a job and got it somewhere. That's why you took the time off.
No, I just thought it was a funny shirt, so I bought it.
Gotcha.
I didn't know
got
they made
this
it in
one.
kid sizes.
I got the Domino's polo,
It
too.
looks a little tight there, doesn't it?
Just a little bit.
Fitted. It's not tight, it's fitted. There's a difference.
Oh, that's
All
probably...
those push-ups you be doing.
Yeah, it's probably the fact that he's not doing push-ups anymore. That's why it's fitted.
Sure. No Todd this week. In true Sasquatch fashion, he'll come around someday.
Ugh.
Combined, we have decades of information security experience here, not just to educate, but to entertain. We've got 4 fantastic stories for you this week, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Congratulations, Brian, on the promotion to Chief Technology Evangelist, which is why we were calling him CTE a few weeks ago. Now it's official.
What?
Well, thanks, Chris.
Congrats,
Yeah.
Brian. Nice.
Thank you. I do feel like I lost all my technical credibility once I took this title. Like, everyone just kind of looks at me like, ugh, marketing guy. It's not. I promise you. I'm not here to lie.
Well, not
Lots
much.
of good things planned ahead, I am sure. We'll hear a lot more about it in the future. Our weekly reminder, check out our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@PEBCAK Podcast. And another reminder to send or email your questions to us, podcast@chrislouis.net. Only one more episode to go until we reach episode 100. Also, public service announcement, if you live in the San Francisco Bay Area, you get an extra month to file your taxes due to the emergency declaration in all 9 Bay Area counties. As usual, this is not financial advice, and ask a tax professional if this affects you. This week, we're going to close the loop on ChatGPT graduating from business school, open with new Apple product announcements. For our first topic, the FBI does something good for the cyber world for the change. Next, we have a leaky airline. For our third topic, the U.S. federal government needs pierogies scammer payback. And we'll close with talking about short shorts. Closing the loop this week, for the story that will literally never die, ChatGPT has passed Wharton School of Business exam and outscored most humans.
But that's not
So
fair,
Professor,
though. That's not fair, though, right? I'll let you finish, Chris. I'm so sorry.
I'll just say that the professor that gives this exam at the Wharton School of Business, very highly regarded, well-respected school. Professor gave the exam to ChatGPT, and the professor read the answer, and the professor said, "Yeah, this would get a passing grade in my class."
Like passing A or passing C?
He did say it outscored most humans. So if you grade on the curve, most people should be getting a C if you use the curve scale. But passed,
Yeah.
right? What is Dominic Toretto? It doesn't matter if you win by an inch or a mile. Winning's winning.
Don't tell my kids, but C's do get degrees.
Hey, what do you call the last person in a graduating class of doctors?
Doctor.
Doctor. Oh, yeah, that's scary. But I don't think that's fair, because doesn't ChatGPT have access to like past history, past tests, past whatever? So therefore, it's a cheat. It's kind of a cheat, right?
It's yes and no. Yes, it has access to all data up to, I forgot what the cutoff was. Is it 2021, Brian? I think it is.
Yeah, I think so.
It's just like, if you remember IBM's computer, it wasn't Deep Blue, it was not Newton. I can't even remember what it's called now. Whatever IBM's AI supercomputer is, it went on Jeopardy, and it beat the other two, the two best Jeopardy players ever. But the computer would often get questions wrong, though. Watson, it's called Watson. Like, you would say, what's a major city in the U.S., and it would answer Toronto. Like, well, clearly Toronto's not in the U.S., but it would still outscore humans, even though it has all this history. It didn't always get it right.
So in an effort to completely derail this conversation, you said Deep Blue, which reminded me of the Dave Chappelle skit when he was Samuel Jackson. You guys remember that? He's like, I'll have a Samuel Jackson.
Sam Jackson, yeah.
Yeah. Deep Blue Sea, they ate me. A fucking shark ate me. You guys remember that?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, that was a good skit. But
It'll get you drunk.
yeah. Wow,
I'm
we're
gonna go watch
yeah.
that skit now. All right.
Oh, you'll enjoy it. But this whole ChatGPT thing is like, it's phenomenal. I literally use it probably daily just to check it out. And my son was working on, I think he's doing some object-oriented programming. It's beyond my skills and capabilities. But we're just talking about, like, he was trying to pass integers and extract strings and do different things with it. And he's like, oh, I'm having problems. I'm like, well, do you ever even like Google? He's like, no, I stick strictly to the videos at hand and then the documentation on this. I was like, well, I personally am just going to exhaust every single resource that I could. I would go on Google, but specifically I'd go out on ChatGPT to see if it could solve this problem. And which makes me think one of two things. One, is my skills severely diminished because I leverage third-party information all the time? Or am I retaining some of this? And for him, like, after I think it was probably 2.5 hours working on this problem, he finally fixed it. Like, he figured out the problem. Then he went and checked ChatGPT, and it would have solved the problem for him in an instant. Like it is that stark of it.
Kudos to him, though, right?
Of a tool.
Kudos to him, because he had to sit down there and go through.
Did it the hard way.
Go through it the hard way, right? Like, true.
Do you guys take the hard way every time, or do you, like...
I use a calculator. What? I don't know what you're talking about.
Context dependent.
Yeah.
Context dependent.
Yeah.
Yeah, the analogy I heard, I can't remember who said it, but the analogy of using ChatGPT is sort of like building a car. Like, if you go into a car factory today, a lot of it's done by robots, but you still need humans there. There's some things that robots can't do, but there are a lot of things robots can help humans do, and I think that's what ChatGPT is.
It's like reference material, right? I mean, like, I think in the older days, if I liken this to like fixing a car, like especially an old one that that requires a service manual, something that they don't make anymore. A car that's early stage, like 1970s, before that. I like to go look at the manual and see if there's anything written inside there to kind of give me an idea of how do I replace this one part, because darn those engineers for putting this one part in the most tightest spot possible, which I can't get to with any of the common tools that are out there, right? I think that's exactly like how it is. If I can sit there and kind of ponder on it, I can go look at a manual and get a reference for it, or even, I guess, ChatGPT it and find out, pretty quickly how it's done. There's some troubleshooting effort inside there, and I like the challenge of actually making my mind think a little bit. I don't know about you guys.
I will tell you. Go ahead, Chris.
I wouldn't trust ChatGPT to be my CFO or my controller in my accounting department, but I would trust ChatGPT to do my taxes. That it's very formulaic. The job of an accountant, the job of a tax preparer, is you take all these inputs. So you have capital gains, you have ordinary income, you have W-2s, you have 1099s, you might even have some K-1s, and you just have to put it in the right spot on the tax form to calculate it out. And the rules are very well defined. We have GAAP rules, we have IRS rules. It's very straightforward on how to do that. ChatGPT would be really good, I think, at replacing tax preparers in the near future, but not a complicated job like CFO, like how do we IPO? Should we do a pre-IPO fund round, things like that?
I think I'm going to try ChatGPT with my kids' tax returns this year since they're all working. Might as well see how well it does. And
H&R Block and Intuit hate this one trick. All right, well, since ChatGPT and plumbing talk took up a lot longer than I expected, we'll skip Apple announcements because that's not as interesting as our first topic here. And our first topic will be a ransomware story of the week. The US FBI announced that they disrupted the Hive ransomware gang after they gained access to their internal systems last July. They sat inside for over 6 months observing what was going on, warning imminent targets, and distributed decryption keys for anyone who got encrypted by them, saving victims in what's estimated to be $130 million in ransoms. That partially contributes to the 40% drop in ransom payments we saw last year, which is a story that we covered last week. The US FBI obtained a warrant for some servers hosted here in California, and Dutch authorities did the same things for servers hosted in the Netherlands. There's awesome work they did since they found the time between asking Twitter to take down satire and joke accounts as revealed in the Twitter Files Part 6. They did some good on the cyber front.
so, Chris, does anyone actually ask you for the ransomware story of the week, or is this just something that you like to do?
This is something we like to do on the podcast.
What do you mean we? I don't think me and Glenn are on this whole ransomware story of the week. But I digress. I'm just busting your chops. I would say one of the things that's most interesting about this is that the FBI sat dormant for 6 months and did this. Now, years ago, we had a user group and we had an FBI agent. I think his name was Michael McAndrews. He came out and talked, and he was like, yeah, I'm part of the cybersecurity defense task force with the FBI. And we're like, oh, cool. Like, how big is your team? He's like, well, in Arizona, it's just me. I'm like, what? And like, out of everything, it's just you. He's like, yeah, just me. And so I was just kind of talking with him. I was like, well, tell me a cool story. And one of them was an administrative assistant for Steve Nash somehow put together that the Nike Elite website, which is for people that are sponsored by Nike, the default username and password were kind of identical. At least the password was. So he took the password and started guessing other sponsored athletes in their email and was ordering millions of dollars of free stuff being shipped to his house in Tempe, and then he was reselling it on eBay. So where there's a will, there's a way, ladies and gentlemen. They eventually caught on to it, and that's how that particular FBI agent got involved.
Yeah, that's very poor OPSEC, having it shipped to your house and then selling it in a way that's easily traceable through eBay. But
yeah,
they got halfway there, but very poor OPSEC.
But he was doing it for years. That's the thing. Like
it went undetected.
Yeah, exactly. But he was like, you would be able to order like golf. I mean, you name it. Like they just ship it. It's no big deal.
and nobody bothered to change the default password that Nike assigned to them.
Yeah.
What was it like? I love.
Maybe
Nike.
there was no password reset. I have no idea.
I hate Adidas.
That was the password. It might work.
Boom, roasted.
Yeah, and there are some people in the InfoSec community that were also scratching their heads, and they were thinking, wow, does the FBI really have this capability? Or is it more likely that one of our other intelligence agencies, maybe the US NSA or US Cyber Command, got in, and since, technically a foreign intelligence service can't operate domestically without domestic help, in this case the FBI, that the FBI took credit for it. That's the other theory.
Or maybe it was just ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Maybe it was a chupacabra. Like, you never know.
Yeah, when you think of FBI Cyber Command, it is, like Brian said, it's one guy in the field office in Arizona, or our local guy here got caught up in Twitter Files Part 6, where he was just working on taking down these joke Twitter accounts. But somehow, some way, they infiltrated a sophisticated ransomware operation, disrupted it, distributed these encryption keys, and then just burned everything to the ground.
Hey, side note, let's get banned. The whole Twitter Files thing, that talking about government overreach. I don't care what side of the fence you're on. That was messed up. They had no business doing that.
Oh, we need to go back in and start talking about the next set of Twitter files.
Well, we need to find out if the listeners even care.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, we didn't see an increase or a drop in listenership, so I guess we have a very loyal following. So thank you, listeners, for continuing to listen and tune in every week.
Heck yeah.
Help spread the word, though. That's the other side of that coin. Help spread the word. Help grow the show.
We will send you a free puppy for every listener you get.
All right, and since Brian's mouth is writing checks that the rest of us are responsible for cashing, for our second topic.
Man, let's go out the reservation. Free dogs everywhere. What are you talking about?
All right, for our second topic, we now know that Brian is on the U.S.'s no-fly list after that, quote, incident that happened back in 2017. And how do we know this? A copy of the U.S.'s no-fly list containing over 1.5 million names and a selectee list with over 250,000 names was leaked and shared on an underground hacking forum. Just kidding, Brian's actually not on that list as far as we know.
Thank you for checking.
The selectee list is a list of names for people who undergo enhanced screening whenever passing through a U.S. airport. All we know is that a misconfigured AWS server belonging to the airline Commute Air allowed a hacker to obtain the list and upload it to an underground crime forum. Now, many people may ask, what good does this information do? Well, imagine you are a terrorist bent on doing harm to the United States. If you obtain a copy of the no-fly list, you can identify which one of your terrorist members have not yet been identified by U.S. intelligence.
Or you can use it as a recruiting tactic, right? Like, hey, you can't do the whole or like you can't fly anywhere, but who says you can't drive a car into a building, right? Like, what if you were misclassified? I don't know.
I think these people already know that they're on the no-fly list. So
1.5 million people in the U.S. Or are they U.S. people or just globally?
Global. So it's a global list. Yeah, so they're not allowed to fly into the U.S.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess that's not too bad. But I will say, if only there was like a technology out there that could go out and look for misconfigurations in your public cloud that you're leveraging. Like this thinking out loud, maybe we should create a business that does that.
Maybe.
And then sell it to people. Probably make a lot of money. Oh, and on top of that, not only do we detect it, then we can actually put a Band-Aid on it and fix it. What a futuristic, hedonistic society that we'll never get to.
If only.
If only.
Yeah. So I used to have a coworker. His name was Sean Murphy, and his name was on this list. And I was like, he's got the most plain name possible, and I think he said it was the Sean Murphy that was associated with the IRA. And I was like, that's a plain name. Like, how would they know, like, that your names? Which Sean Murphy? There's got to be millions of you guys, right? So
they usually cross-referenced it with date of birth, and I think there were some other identifiers in this list. I think it was first name, last name,
Okay.
date of birth, maybe passport number. I'm not sure.
So
if
they create these passports, they can obscure, a couple fields and make it through the no-fly list.
Did your coworker get flagged a lot?
Yeah, he always was flagged to do the what is it?
The enhanced interrogation.
No, it's supposed to be the random check. For some reason, his name would always ping for a random check. He goes, I don't get it. It's supposed to be random. Why am I getting picked? And I said, I don't think it's random. So
he's on the selectee list then.
Yeah.
Maybe not the no-fly list. He's on the selectee list.
Well, maybe this is why TSA is so good at what they do.
There's supposed to be a redress number that if you're caught in that situation, you share the name or some details of someone on the no-fly list, but you're not that person, you're supposed to submit a redress number. I don't know when that came out, but your coworker should definitely look into that.
I've seen that before.
Do you guys have TSA pre-check? Do you guys apply for that?
Global entry, baby. Yep.
Oh yeah, global entry. Yeah.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah, I haven't had to take off. Well, I would say I haven't had to take off my shoes for a flight in quite some time, but there are some airports that don't have it, and then there are some airports where pre-check closes at a certain hour, which was news to me.
Yeah, like 8, 9 o'clock, 9, 10 o'clock, the TSA is closed, and they give you a little pass just so that you don't have to take off your shoes while you're in line or something like that as you go through the normal line with the rest of the peasants. So
yeah,
the annoying thing is
free lunch.
I still have to take out my laptop.
Yeah.
Well, it's not even that. You have to take out your laptop. So sometimes I fly with like a laptop, an iPad, and a Kindle. And I have to take everything out. And then sometimes I forget my Kindle because I don't count that as a tablet. But some airports count that as a tablet. So I have to go back through the line, take out my Kindle this time.
Freaking Chris has got tech debt up the yin yang.
You mean
Amazon Kindle?
Yeah.
Really?
It would have been, hold on, it's not 2 laptops and 2 iPads and the Kindle?
I know. My buddy, actually, he just came back from Mexico, and he brought 2 laptops with him. And they got him on, like, import duties for that second laptop. Apparently, if you fly to Mexico, you're only allowed to carry 1 laptop. And even if you fly out of the country with 2 laptops, you can try to fly back in. They nailed him on customs duties for that.
Wow.
That's why I drive to Mexico, guys.
You're closer.
All the extra stuff that they ask you to bring back into the States. Which ironically is how you got on the no-fly list to begin with.
Yeah. It's not because of his name, it's because of his looks. So.
Can you imagine? They probably have that. Are those fields in there? Like, he typically walks around like a bomb strapped to his vest.
In the notes field, maybe.
Yeah. He's quite girthy.
The better way to do it, instead of distributing the list to every single airline and hope they keep it under wraps, like why doesn't TSA just host the list themselves and then airlines can check against that list? Wouldn't that be better?
That would make sense. Are you nuts?
Too much sense.
Get out of here.
Yeah, Southwest is on 25-year-old technology. I don't know if they'll be able to write a script to make an API call into the TSA database to query this name.
I got news for you. Every major airline that's been around for a while is on 25-year-old tech. Probably the most cutting edge is like companies like Allegiant, where they wrote their own booking software, like modern day, not mainframe, but they still fly junk planes. I mean, they're junk planes, but somewhat sketchy. Edit that out, Chris. I don't want to...
There goes that Allegiant sponsorship. Yeah. Brian's like, I gotta go fly Spirit now.
Yeah. The old flying death trap. So.
Yeah, I would think that, like most companies that come up nowadays, they're on cloud. They're all cloud first. They're AWS. They're Office 365 versus these old dinosaur companies that still run a lot of on-prem stuff. So any airline that started within the last 10 years is probably on something newer. I was thinking of like Virgin America before they got acquired by Alaska Air. They were very technologically forward-thinking, at least on their airplanes. I don't know what their back-end looked like. For our third topic, oh man, this is a depressing one. It actually combines a few of the stories that we've done in the past. A recent investigation by CISA, our Cyber Infrastructure and Security Agency, showed that 2 U.S. federal agencies were breached using remote desktop sharing software. It's one of those fortunately, unfortunately stories where, yes, the agency was breached, but they were breached due to Geek Squad types of scams, the one that Pierogi covers and fights against in his Scammer Payback YouTube channel. The scam starts with an email saying you have an auto renewal for Geek Squad, Norton, McAfee, you name it, and you're going to be billed for $500 unless you call to dispute it. When you call the number, it connects to an India call center, and they try to gain access to your computer using AnyDesk or TeamViewer, some type of remote software. And once they're in, they manipulate the browser into thinking they refunded you too much money, and you have to withdraw the cash and mail it to them, or send it to them through Western Union or Bitcoin. So yes, it was bad that these federal agencies got breached, but thankfully they got breached by these India scam call centers, which probably didn't know just how much access they had inside a U.S. federal agency. And thankfully, CISA was able to catch it before any damage was done.
Do you really think...
You know what they say?
Go ahead.
Is it, what's white and sleeps three?
Sleeps three. Uh-oh.
What's that?
A U.S. federal truck. Just, agents sleeping away.
Sleep at the wheel.
Sleep at the wheel. It's sad, though, that's like...
Who clicks on that stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God. Clicks, calls. Did they actually call from an office computer and have them install TeamViewer? Or
it's not only that; it's that the users had enough admin rights to install this stuff on their machine.
True.
Yeah,
they should have
a firewall wasn't blocking it.
They should have an Active Directory, or I should say, just a group membership called Gullible. So, suspect
Drop them in
links.
that group.
Yeah. This is why you need to have
internet jail.
Yeah, internet jail, browser isolation. You need AI, ML to dynamically block this stuff. How dare they? Oh, I guess it came in as an email. If you're really going to call the number.
Email,
but what
phone call, install the software.
What federal agency is it? Like U.S. Water and Power? What was it? What do you think? It couldn't have been the FBI. It couldn't have been the CIA, or could it?
No. CISA didn't out the agency, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was like state or something. Because I remember years ago when the Ashley Madison leak, they were like at state.gov, there was at fbi.gov email addresses in that database.
I would have loved to see that list of names. That would have been awesome. Well, I guess we still can, right? It's still out there someplace.
It was on Pastebin for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you know where to look, I'm sure you can find it.
See how many people are still happily married.
See if those passwords are still working.
I remember
password reuse.
Telling my wife about that. She's like, well, type in your name in your email. Like, there's a website that you could check to cross-reference to see if you were part of the breach.
Have I been
pwned?
Like, is that right? Yeah.
I was
yeah,
like,
have I been pwned?
Yeah,
I was like, yeah. I was like, you really think I did this? She's like, well, let's just check it out. I'm like, all right, let's do this. She's like, type in my dad's name. I'm like, we're closing the computer now. We're not doing this.
Well, let's type in your name.
How the tables have turned.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Well, that would have been terrible, right? Come back clean, but she's guilty. I'm like, ooh, awkward.
So going back to the original story of the refund scams, as I've spoken about on the podcast before, I had to chop down this tree that fell over in front of my house, and I'm out there with the saw, and a neighbor comes by, and she's not elderly, but she's on the older side. She's going for a daily walk, and she comes up to me and wants to meet the new neighbor, and we get to talking, and I tell her I was wearing my Zscaler shirt, and she said, oh, what do you do? And I said, I work in cybersecurity. And then she's like, oh, where were you last year when I needed you? I got an email that said I was going to get billed for Geek Squad, and I called the number, and they installed AnyDesk on my computer. And as she's telling me this, I'm like, oh no. I'm like, oh no. And then she went through the whole thing. She's like, yeah, I had to throw out the computer. I had to buy a new computer, and it emailed all my contacts. All my friends were getting scammed too. So like, oh man.
Oh, poor lady.
And yeah, if she had not already learned her lesson from that, I'm just like, yeah, if you don't recognize it, don't click it, don't call. It's a scam. And I was trying to do my 5-minute elevator pitch on how to protect vulnerable groups from these cybersecurity scams.
I bet she worked for a federal agency. It was her.
Yeah. So Yeah, that was an interesting conversation when I got to meet the new neighbor, but hopefully she's a little bit more educated now. Won't click on random things and install AnyDesk on her computer anymore.
Yeah, what an idiot. I'm surprised she remembered AnyDesk, though. That's cool.
Yeah.
I'm good. Go!
All right, well, for our last topic, and it'll be a rotating topic every week. This week, we're going to talk about the Adani Group and short selling. So I threw this link in the group chat earlier this week, and I was actually surprised that no one else had heard this story or was following what was going on, considering the world's third richest man lost $36 billion, that's billion with a B, in 3 days, and fell to the world's 10th richest person. The Adani Group's the actual company, their combined market cap lost almost $85 billion. So we haven't seen this level of wealth destruction since FTX and the financial crisis in 2008. Let's rewind a bit here and tell you what happened. An opposition research company called Hindenburg Research, appropriate name, I know, specializes in investigations of companies they believe are committing fraud or hiding something to greatly increase their stock price. Before Hindenburg releases their report, they take a large short position in the company, so they are essentially betting that the stock price will go down, and if the stock price tanks, they make a ton of money. One of the most well-known investigations was, I think it was last year or 2 years ago, but it was into Trevor Milton, the CEO of Nikola Motors, and exposed him for being a gigantic fraud and nearly took down the company. They made a lot of money shorting their stock as the stock of Nikola dropped over 90%. And if you remember, short sellers make money when the stock price falls. Last week, after a 2-year investigation, Hindenburg released a 200-plus page report documenting the largest corporate fraud in history against a company called the Adani Group, India's largest conglomerate company. And there are a bunch of key points from the report that I'll list off in a bit, but first, reactions from you two when I sent you guys the link in the group chat.
Do you think he lost any sleep as he fell from number 3 to number 10? He's probably like, whatever, no big deal. It's 36 bill.
Yeah, he's still incredibly wealthy, but not as wealthy as he would have been if the stock report hadn't come out. I think he's just concerned about the future viability of the companies. Like, these companies could have been just house of cards, and this thing could implode overnight.
So he goes from 3rd to 10, and he's still like 1,000 places. 100,000 places richer than me. I mean, it's like, it's crazy.
Yeah, he still has more money than he could ever spend in his ententire life.
Yeah, but
that's true.
How does the person that's in charge of all these companies still be solvent? I mean, the guy should be in jail, right? If he was doing all this, he should be under investigation, technically, I think.
Well, he has that FU money, so he can do whatever he wants at this point.
Yeah, and that's part of the research that Hindenburg did. Is a lot of the people they dealt with did do investigations. They did turn over evidence to the appropriate authorities in India, and for some reason, which no one can figure out, no charges were ever brought up.
Seems like a great guy.
They're saying the Indian government's in on the scam.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that despite overwhelming evidence of malfeasance, they were never really formally charged for these crimes. Now, some people were. So I'll read off some of the key points from the report. 8 of the 22 key leaders in the Adani conglomerate companies, they're all family members, so they're all related.
Keep it in the family.
There are 38 shell companies controlled by this guy Adani, his oldest brother. He controls 38 shell companies that interact with the Adani Group. And if this is not a huge red flag, I don't know what is. The independent auditor, so think of Arthur Andersen in the case of Enron. The independent auditor for Adani Enterprises is a tiny firm that has no website, and the historical archive shows that this auditing firm had 4 partners and only 11 employees. And the audit, quote, partners who signed off on the company financials were only 23 years old when they started approving financials for the now $100 billion combined market cap company.
Hey, keep your circle tight, man.
Wow.
So going back to our point for FTX, if you have a bunch of 29-year-olds or 30-year-olds running a $10 billion company, that should be a huge red flag. So 23-year-old auditors were signing off on the financials of a $100 billion company. Huge red flag.
I need you back in the fight.
Adani Enterprises had 5 CFOs in the last 8 years. And of the 7 listed companies of the Adani Group, they're on average about 85% overvalued. So when you take their price to earnings ratio, which is a measure of how the stock price is overvalued or undervalued, their green energy PE number is 815. So their stock price is 815 times their earnings when the industry average is about 24. Wow. So that implies about a 97% downside for the stock. Just even if there's no malfeasance, it's still just way overvalued.
So outside of these bullet points, what has you most up in arms, Chris?
I think it's just in this day and age, we're still seeing this. We've had Enron, we've had Madoff, we've had all these accounting frauds, WorldCom, you name it. We still don't have the appropriate controls to detect and stop this kind of fraud. And granted, this is India, and I don't know how finances work in India, and not like we do here in the U.S. We have Sarbanes-Oxley, we have a lot of stuff that came out of the Enron scandal. Yet we still have companies like Nikola that had multi-billion-dollar valuation on a truck that they literally rolled down a hill.
That's true. I thank God for this every single day. I almost bought in on the IPO of Nikola. I remember there was emails going out. I was like, I'm gonna flag this and do it later, and then kept doing that. And then before I knew it, was like, oh, you missed out, idiot. It's like, oh, you're right. I'm an idiot. And then this happened. So, jokes on you guys.
I don't think this is as bad in the U.S. I get Nikola. Nikola was maybe there, but I mean, none of the larger companies that are out there are getting caught in this anymore, right? Because there are a lot of controls in place. If you look at FTX, that really was something that was out of the blue, out in left field, because I don't think we really had a lot of controls on Bitcoin to begin with, right? There probably will be now.
And they were registered in the Bahamas.
Yeah, there probably will be now.
That was a problem.
Yeah.
It's a conspiracy theory. It was all to be able to put controls around Bitcoin or crypto.
And one thing that I think is concerning about these shell companies and the holding companies, I listened to the Bad Bets podcast, and they went really in detail for Enron and for Nikola as well. And one of the things Enron did was they had these oil vessels that they're just boats that carry oil. And I guess Enron was coming up short on their revenue for a quarter. So they went to a bank, call it JP Morgan Chase or Goldman Sachs. I don't know which one. And they told them, hey guys, why don't you buy these boats from us for $100 million? After we report earnings, we'll buy them back from you for $110 million. And that's what they did. So the bank bought these boats, got the paper for the boats. They reported blowout earnings, stock went up. And then they just quietly bought these boats back from the bank for 10% plus interest on it. It's like, that's what we need, the corporate controls. Like, that's just blatantly stock manipulation.
But riveting conversation, Chris. Thank you.
Yeah. Am I the only one that's this fired up about it?
What's the end of all this, right? So he's gonna lose stock. He's gonna he goes from 3rd to 10, still billions of dollars, right? I mean, lots of money that this guy will never be able to spend, and he's basically built generational wealth amongst the family. If you look at it.
When danger comes a knocking, right? He's just like, well, how much does it take to make you go away?
Yeah.
Is it 20 million? Is it 30 million? 250 million? Like, everyone's got a number, right? Ain't nothing gonna happen to this guy. You got that kind of money, he'd be just fine. That's the sad part.
Yeah, well, the hope is that it's so public now that the Indian government has to do something about it and launch their own investigation, hopefully. And hopefully they find something that will put the guy away if it's true. So we have to preface that these are all allegations. There's a 200-page report. There's like 80 questions at the end that Hindenburg wants to ask Adani. And Adani did put out a rebuttal to this, but their stock price continues to plummet. I think by law in India, a stock can only drop 10% per day, and many of these stocks have dropped the limit of 10% per day. They're down 50% overall, and erased the wealth of this guy. Erased $87 billion worth of market cap.
Buy low, sell high. It's just going to rebound. Watch.
Hey, so can we put is it call orders? If it's just 10% a day, can we just keep doing call orders every day, knowing that it's going to
you
drop?
Want puts if you got a bet that's going to go down. You want to sell the calls or buy the puts.
Yeah, can we do the puts? Will anybody take a put order for those right now?
Yeah, I bet there's a huge premium for them right now.
I didn't even know that India had their own stock market. That's cool.
Yeah, they have their own stock market. So I think as U.S. people, I don't think we can trade, or we're not supposed to, but you can buy their American Depository, ADS or something. I can't remember the acronym, but they have an American version of their stock that you can buy or short. But I thought this was super interesting. This could potentially be the largest corporate fraud in history. We thought Enron was pretty bad already, and we had Madoff, and now this Adani, which is a company I'd never heard of. I bet people in India know, because that's probably like their Procter & Gamble or ExxonMobil, some very large company there, but I've never heard of it until now, and a lot of people are hearing about it now for the wrong reasons.
831 times earnings. That is insane. That was the Adani Total Gas. That's wild, man.
Yeah, compared to an industry average of 20x, which implies very, very heavy downside on that. So we'll see. Some of the short sellers have gotten it wrong before. There is a company called Muddy Waters, and they put out a report against St. Jude Medical that said their pacemakers were, quote, hackable. Their St. Jude's stock price went down quite a bit when that report came out. And when they actually did the deep dive into it, they're like, okay, yeah, there were some security concerns about it, but it's not like some guy in his basement's going to turn off everybody's pacemaker at the same time. So that ended up being a nothing burger. It was a software update.
A nothing burger. Haven't heard that one in a while.
All right. Since I said nothing burger, we continue to get great comments about our dad joke of the week.
Dad joke of the week.
This week, Brian's up.
Ooh. So my son asked me what it's like to be married. I told him to leave me alone. Then I asked him why he's ignoring me.
Wah, wah, wah.
Wah, wah,
I was
wah.
waiting for that. Yeah.
I think your wife's not going to be happy about that joke when she listens to this podcast, but okay.
Joke's on you. She doesn't listen to us.
True, but she does love the Instagram clips that Chris posts weekly. We look forward to
The
that.
audiograms, yeah. It's been about a year. We've had about a year worth of audiograms now, so glad to know that that's being appreciated. There is some work that goes into doing that and getting it posted. I am a little bit behind, but I'm trying to backfill those as quick as I can. All right, to wrap things up, ChatGPT graduated from business school. The US FBI did something good in their cyber realm for once. The US no-fly list is out in the wild. The US federal government was compromised by refund scammers. And beware when Hindenburg drops reports. That's all I have for this week. We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. You can find us all on LinkedIn. Links will be in the description. Follow us on Instagram at PEBCAK Podcast. Thank you to all our listeners and subscribers who raised 5 stars in the iTunes Store and Spotify and left us a review. We appreciate you all spreading the word to help grow the show. The best way to find us is to search for the PEBCAK Podcast on your favorite podcast listening app. For my co-hosts Brian Deitch and Glenn Medina, I'm Chris Louie. Thanks for listening. We'll see you all next weekend. As always, have a nice day.
Todd Morton doesn't care about listeners.
Bye, Felicia.